Welcome to the Writer's Room. We're back. So I want to continue to talk about the first 10 or 15 pages and how incredibly important they are. In my job as Director of Development for Simon Says Entertainment, I read screenplays and plays, treatments for TV, web series, etc. But basically, I'm reading stories, right? And trying to figure out, okay, is this within our wheelhouse? Could we really support this project? And to that end, I have decided to do a series of videos to answer some questions that writers may have, but also to be a support for writers. I'm both a writer, producer, and actor, so I know this road is not easy. And so I want to talk about some of the problems that come up in the first 10, 15 pages. In my previous video, I talked about how critical the first 10 to 15 pages are in laying out your story. And that's true of any genre. That's true of television, that's true of independent film, that's true of action films, that's true of musicals, that's true of plain plays, narratives, that's true of novels, right? We live in a society where we are saturated with email and Twitter and YouTube and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. We're constantly getting information, right? How do you grab your reader's attention in a world where every 30 seconds they're having new ideas and news and gossip thrown at them? Well, the key is in plain old-fashioned storytelling. You have someone in your family, everybody does. For me, it's my grandmother. She can tell you the story of a movie, and it's better than the movie. I kid you not. And my colleague Ron Simons at Simon Says Entertainment can totally attest to the truth of this since he's met my grandmother. When I was in Miami doing my TED Talk, we went to visit my family, and I wanted him to meet my Nana. And my Nana can tell a story. And she's where I learned how to tell a story. And the greatest thing I learned from my Nana is she always starts with the action. Even if the movie didn't start with the action. I kid you not. My parents wouldn't let me see The Exorcist because I was too little. I was like a baby. Years later, I'm discussing this with my Nana. She goes, let me tell you what happened. Long before the green puke, right? She started with the scene with the green puke. Now, that's not where the movie started, but that's where she started because that was the climactic moment. She started with the most jarring event. Then she went backwards and got to the beginning. But she knew in order to grab her audience, right, was to go to the action. And she does that in all of her stories. Most of my writing is based on stories that she told me because she is a phenomenal storyteller. And I think that's a gift that she gave me. Either that or I'm just stealing it from her. But I always start with an event and a really jarring event, right? I think of the play Jerusalem that was on Broadway. The opening scene, a little girl comes across the stage, the curtains are closed, she sings like a little fairy, and we're not aware of it at the time that the song is sort of an old fable that's telling us the story that we're about to see, but we're struck because this very rare event in a huge Broadway house is a little girl in plain clothes crossing the stage, singing, not like a legit singer, but like a normal person, an old folk song, blank stage. She could have been from the audience, right? It's just a very unusual event. And then as she finishes the song, the curtains open and we are in the middle of a rave. Now, we don't know what the story is about. Every review I read, nobody could really tell me what the story was about. You don't know yet what the story is about in the first 5 minutes. But I bet you this. You are riveted because the story began with unusual, active events. So the first thing I always ask someone when they want to pitch something to me is, have you told the story to someone? Well, no, I'm writing it. It's in my... Nah. What is the story? Well, not that there was a woman and there was a dog. Start with an event, right? And my writing coach, the brilliant Jessica Blank, always says to me, stay in the present. It's rich enough and write into it. Meaning, instead of telling me, well, once upon a time there was a little girl and she lived in this house with these other people and her father had died and the people there, she wasn't sure if they were her foster parents or not, and she had a lot of work to do. Who cares? That's 1,000 little girls. But if the scene begins with this little girl, about 6 years old, in a ragged dress, but she's totally beautiful, scrubbing the floor, a woman walks in and kicks her, we're in the story. And then what ensues is the little girl's attempt to get out of that room and get away from the woman that's kicking her. And the woman is kicking her and telling her why she's kicking her and trying to get something from her. That's the story. That's Cinderella. There's a bitter, bitter stepmom torturing a little girl. Mostly because she doesn't want the little girl to outdo her little girls. But in the telling, you begin with an event. That's how you grab your readers. That's how you grab the 20-somethings and the tweeners and, everybody of every age in a world where they're constantly being inundated with knowledge and Twitter and tweets and emails. You start with the action. And this is particularly true of work that is going to be produced for performance, right? So plays and screenplays, they're written to be read, but mostly they're written to be performed, right? They don't come alive until actors pick it up and start doing something with it. So as a reader of your work and you want to grab me, let somebody start right into the action. Don't worry about backstory. If the events are active enough, if the stakes are high enough, I will follow the story. I will. I will care about the people because you're not telling me to care about them. You're showing me why I should care about them. That's the most important thing that needs to happen in the first 10 to 15 pages in a play or a screenplay or a web series or a TV script. What is happening? Right into it. Begin with the event, the climactic event. It doesn't have to be the ultimate climax of the entire story, but it has to be so juicy, so fertile, that it keeps me locked in, right? I'll give you another example. I talked to you about my Nana. My Nana. I love my Nana. She's fantastic, right? And I was having trouble writing the second play in my trilogy of Miami plays, which are about my great-grandmother and my grandmother. And I knew what the story was about. I knew it was going to be about their relationship and what they struggled with and mothers and daughters, blah, 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 blah. Who cares? But if you start with the event, and I spent 2 years writing backstory, and then in 1926 she went here, and it was a hot, stormy day in Miami. That's not what got people interested when I started telling them about the story. Not, I have a sassy grandmother from the 20s. She used to run moonshine and talk to the spirits, and she married some crazy Cuban high priest. Okay, that's sort of interesting. But if I tell you a story that actually begins like 2/3 into the play, you're in it. And here's the story. It was told to me by my Nana and by my uncle. I think I was 12, maybe 11. I wasn't supposed to be hearing the story. But it's one of those, you're supposed to be over there playing and the grown folks are talking around the table while they're preparing dinner. Yeah, I heard the story. I wasn't playing with the baby alive. And here's the story. My great-grandmother had a husband named Daddy Buster, right? I'm not making that up. That was his name. I wish I could have thought of that character name. And Daddy Buster was chocolate and dark skin, and they ran moonshine, they ran a boarding house, and they ran numbers. One particular day, Daddy Buster comes in to the establishment. My great-grandmother Celia is wiping down the table. And she says, Tim, where you been? Now, he says, oh, well, I had to go see the bank man in D-Land. And she basically says, yeah, I know you went to see the bank man in D-Land. I just came from there and I heard what he said to you. What? And he says, what you talking about? And she says, he said to me, the bank man, just as smiling and happy as he want to be, that you took out $10,000 of my money and bought a house. And you said that the money was for some improvements. And I don't know nothing about no house. And he says, I tell you, I was going to tell you. And then she tells him a story. How she heard buzzing around. This is her talking. You know, I heard me a funny story. I went around the corner to the other house, the freestanding house in Goodward Alley, and I knocked on the door, and this woman came to the door, and I looked at the house that my money had bought, and I looked in her face, and she was white as the day was long. Okay? Could have been Myrna Lloyd, but when she opened her mouth, she was a black woman. And standing at her feet was a little white baby black child that looked just like my husband. And then she walked around the corner as she was telling his story, took out a can of gasoline, poured it in his lap, went back around the corner, tried to light a match and said, God damn, I want to light you up. But I done got all this gasoline on myself. I can't do it without burning my damn self up. He runs out the door. She pulls out her gun, stands in the doorway, shoots him and says, damn, I missed. 2 days later, she goes to the hospital, 2 garbage bags in hand with his clothes in it. Goes into his hospital room, puts the garbage bags down. He jumps and get ready to call the doctor. She says, don't worry, I ain't gonna kill you. I done shot you. I was aiming high in your thigh, but I done shot you. And walked out. That's the story. That's not at all what the play is about. But when I put that story on its feet, everybody wants to hear the rest of the story. You can work backwards from there. Right? Right into the action. And I would suggest find a friend and tell them this amazing story that you're dying to tell. Not who it's about, right? I spent exactly 15 seconds telling you who the 2 people were in the scene. And then we got down to what happened in the scene. End the conversation. Guns, gasoline, liquor stores, the whole 9. Right into it. Trust that we will go with you if the stakes are high. Okay. So that's my bit for today. And I have some really amazing news. I've decided to do a free teleclass. It will be 90 minutes. It will be this coming Thursday at 6 p.m. So all you have to do is sign up for the writer's room, and you will get the dial-in information the day before the call, and you can join us. I will talk about the first 10 to 15 pages. I will talk about Simon Says' submissions process and what we're looking for. I will talk about some of the trials that you have specifically as a playwright. Getting your play started, getting it seen, getting it into developmental labs. I will talk specifically about screenplays and those first 10 to 15 pages and how to solve problems around being expositional and getting right to the action and staying in the present. Okay? And then I will take questions. I will be at your disposal for 90 minutes. There is a cap on how many people can sign up for the call, so I suggest you go to the writer's room right now and sign up. If you cannot make the 6 p.m. time this coming Thursday, we will send you the recording of the call. How sweet is that? But only if you sign up, right? So this will be limited to participants of the writer's room, writers who are really committed to this process and ready to take advantage of some of these opportunities that I'm providing. Yes, I look forward to it. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.